In this video we are going to take a look at how easy it is to connect the FixedIT data agent to Access Camera Station. So Access Camera Station is a video management software that is used to monitor cameras. And the FixedIT data agent is an Edge application, an ACAP application that you run directly in your Access camera that can scan QR codes or in some cases one-dimensional barcodes also directly from the image from the view of the camera. And by connecting the QR code decoder to Access Camera Station, we will make QR codes searchable in Access Camera Station so that you can search for a barcode and you will find what camera it was seen in at what time. And you can just click on that and get directly to the camera view or the recording from that time. And you will also be able to export it as CSV files as a kind of audit log to trace where have your parcels or any other things that you might want to track with QR codes on them been. So to do this, we are going to use one camera. We can of course run it in multiple cameras at the same time and get the information from all the cameras into the same Access Camera Station. But in this case, we're just going to use one camera, and it's this one. So let me open the user interface of this camera so we can go and install the applications. And if we take a look at the live view here, we will see that we actually already have the FixedIT QR code reader running in this camera. And that is because I did install it just before I started this recording. So it's very easy to install it. Just click Add App and then select the EUP file. And then once it's installed, click on the three dots and activate license automatically and use the license code that you got from us. And we will also need another ACAP application, the FixedIT data agent. So do the same for that one, Add App and then activate it. And then make sure that two applications are running. So the FixedIT QR code decoder does not need any configuration at all. It is already up and running now, as we could see. And if we go back to the stream, we can hold up a QR code here and we will see that we get detections of the code with the value decoded in it. So that shows us that the QR code reader is working now. So the next step is that we need to set up the connection to Access Camera Station, and that is what we will use the FixedIT data agent for. So this application is essentially a runtime for custom configurations. So we will go to the configuration tab, we will disable the built-in configurations, and then we will upload a new configuration file. I will select the QR ACS bridge.configuration file. This is a configuration file that tells it how it should read QR code detections from the FixedIT QR code decoder and send them to Access Camera Station. And this one also depends on a helper file, so you need to upload this one. So this is the QR, let's see, it's the post to acs.shell file. And all of this is of course explained in our quick start guide, so you can just follow along the steps there. And when uploading this one, we need to make sure it's executable and then click upload. So note that I used upload helper file to upload the .sh file and upload config to upload the .conf file. And now when these are uploaded, I will enable the config file. So this is how it should look like. Now the bundled config files are gray, we're not using them. This one is blue and this one is green since we selected executable on it. So now the data agent know how to fetch QR codes and send them to the ACS protocol, the Access Camera Station protocol. But it doesn't know which server to run it on. So we will need to configure that with our ACS setup information. And to do that easy, we have created a custom user interface. So if you go to the custom UI tab and select upload file, and again choose file and select the ACS bridge config.html file, then this will upload a custom configuration interface, the ACS bridge configuration, where we can easily configure this. So now we will need an IP address to the server. And in my case, I run the Access Camera Station server on my computer that I'm using right now. And you can find your IP address of your computer in the control panel or the network settings for Windows. The port number should mostly almost always be unchanged. This is the default port in Access Camera Station, so unless you have changed anything configuration there, you shouldn't change anything. And then we will need a username and password used to upload data to Access Camera Station. And to do this, you need to first create a user in Windows, and then you need to go to Security, User Permissions, and add the user here and give them administrator rights, which is needed to make it allow to upload detection data to Access Camera Station. So we will use this username and the password that I set when I created the user. Let's see, ACS data inserter. And this is of course critical to get this correct, and also with the upper and lower case. And then we will need an ACS source key, and this is what tells ACS what device it belongs to. So the first thing we need to do is to go to Devices and External Data Sources, and we need to create an external data source for our QR code reader. So we're going to call this FixedIT QR code decoder. And since we might have multiple QR code decoders running on different cameras, we will also call it Office West Door, since this camera is looking at the west door in our office. And then we will connect it to a camera. We can either connect it to a specific camera, or we can connect it to a view that we have created with multiple cameras. In this case, we will select a single camera, but the case when it might be useful to select a view instead is if you have two cameras watching the same scene. You might have one fisheye camera looking at the whole room, and then you have one more zoomed in camera that looks exactly at the door, which is the one that is used to scan the QR codes. And if you then connect this to a view, then you will be able to see both cameras in sync when the code was connected. So you can, for example, see where is the person going with the parcel after going through the door. But in this case, we just connect it to one specific camera, the camera that is running the application. And this gives us a source key. So now we need to copy this source key, and we need to insert this in the user interface here. And in my case, I also need to skip SSL certificate verification, because by default, when you install an Access Camera Station, it will have a self-signed certificate, which means that we can't validate it. If you want the validation to work for security reasons, then you need to make sure that you have a real trusted certificate installed in your Access Camera Station installation. And then we're just going to save our changes. So now the data agent should be up and running, forwarding data from our QR code reader to our Access Camera Station. So the place we will find these data points in now is in Data Search. And here we can select live if we want to see the data live as it comes in. And we can select all or external. And here under source, we will see that we have the FixedIT QR code decoder Office West Door. So this is the only one we have now, but if we had multiple, we could select all of them or just specific ones here. So let's now go back to the live view here, just so we can see what I'm doing. And go to the stream. And I can hold up the QR code here. And we see the detections here in the live view, so we know it detected it. And then look in the data search. And here we see now that it did indeed detect our QR codes. So here we have the detections, and here we had some early detections before I started the video recording. No, sorry, actually this, what we see here is actually the detections I showed the first time before we set up the data agent. Because one of the really powerful things with the data agent now is that data will be cached both in the data agent and between the FixedIT QR code reader and the data agent. So since the QR code reader did detections here at almost 10 minutes ago, when it wasn't connected to any outputs, then it cached all these or stored all these detections locally, and as soon as it got connectivity again, it sent those to our data search. So it would be the same, for example, if we lose network connectivity from the camera to our access camera station, then the camera will continue to buffer up all these detections that it makes, and as soon as it got network connectivity again, it will push them to ACS, and we will see them appear retroactively here with the correct timestamp when they were actually detected. So again, if I hold up my QR code here, we should see that we get new detections falling in here. And we can of course select a time interval, and we can search to see what detections did we have during the last hour. And we can download them as a CSV file for processing elsewhere. And if you want to continue with more cameras, it's of course just to connect the new cameras to ACS, then create a new data source, install the applications in that camera, configure them with a new source key, and then they will appear here, and you will see which source it is, and when you click that source, you will see the live view from the right camera that was actually detecting it. And then of course you can create views with multiple cameras so you see them in sync. So yeah, that's really how easy and simple it is to set up the data agent to forward QR code detections to access camera station.